Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Sighted to Sightless podcast. I'm Richard, and joining me today is Steven. Clint is still MIA. I personally think he got in trouble for drinking all of the pink drinks at Starbucks, but that's just my personal thoughts on it. This episode is once again brought to you by Stumpy Security Agency. He's tougher than a two-legged dog. Be sure to check him out on Facebook at Stumpy Security Agency, and he'll do you right. We're still looking for 100 YouTube subscribers. Those who, if we do reach that milestone, then I will be doing the one chip challenge. Again, this is just me, so it's audio only. With me is Steven, and I've known Steven for what, about 3, 4 years now? Something like that.
Yeah, maybe longer.
Yeah, the older we get, my dude, the less we remember, right?
Probably pre-COVID, honestly.
It had to be right after COVID.
Yeah,
I did.
that's right, because that's when it ramped up, like people doing remote games and stuff ramped up and stuff.
Yeah, and I didn't start running until March of 2020.
Yeah,
So, and I think you came in, oh, dang, I think you came in roughly about 6 months after that. So,
probably. Yeah, because there was a group that I wasn't a part of.
yeah, so we'll go 4, 4.5 years.
Yeah,
I honestly don't know how you put up with me this long, but it is what it is. Um,
I'm more surprised we put up with Jesse.
this is true. This is true. Very, very true. Um, but Steven,
Jesse had to get one dig in.
oh, there's going to be plenty of digs on Jesse because shovels were created in Pennsylvania too, I think, like everything else. Stephen is, of course, a blind or visually impaired person, and I'm going to start off with that. Before we get, to your story, do you prefer the term blind or visually impaired?
I think blind is more descriptive for me. I mean, because I can't see, so it doesn't make sense to say visually impaired because that kind of leaves people with the impression that you can see a little bit.
Believe it or not, Jesse and I both said the same thing. Maybe we were hanging out with him way too much. Need to cut back on that. But tell us a little bit about you, Stephen, and like, when you lost your sight and if you want to tell us your age when you lost your sight, that's fine. If not, that's fine too. But just give us a
Oh,
little
um,
background.
um, well, I've been visually impaired the whole life, but I didn't lose my sight completely until I don't know, little after my mid 30s, maybe. That's when it really started going bad. Um, to the point where, I couldn't really navigate by myself anymore.
I got you.
But
So you have gone from being visually impaired to being blind. You can actually look at both sides of that
yeah,
that question.
I could see probably like I think they said 2200 when I was a kid because I had cataracts when I was born.
Oh wow.
I think a little after I was born. They developed after like, in the first year or something like that. And
Right.
after they were removed, I developed like corneal scarring, so that impacted my vision. And plus, I didn't have, where they removed the cataracts, I didn't have any like lenses in my eyes, so that kind of impacted it too.
Yes. I remember I had like some cataracts growing on mine. I mean, this was after I lost my sight. I mean, I didn't care if cataracts grew or not. I wasn't gonna be able to
At that
see.
point, it didn't really matter.
But the doctor, because of some of the damage done back there, needed to be able to look back there. So he's like, we got to remove them. Okay. He's like, you don't have any lenses on your eye. And my first thought was, so my eyes wide open to like everything, you know? Um, and I just pictured like it being just like an open space, like,
Oh, yeah.
like anything like a, and living out in the country, we or down here we have gnats and things like that. And I just kept thinking about like a gnat flying around my eye and deciding to go in to build a little house, a little gnat family.
Yeah, I've sucked bugs up my nose before, it ain't fun.
Oh, no, and they don't really taste good. I mean, the chocolate covered ones are a little bit better, but you're eating really just the chocolate there.
Well, then they start panicking and start biting you, trying to get it.
Oh yes. Oh man, and like when they'll like wiggle up in your nose or something,
Yeah.
that's just annoying. Um, so like I said, you've lived both sides of the fence. And Jesse has lived, straight up blind his whole life. And so in the first two guests, we had three different, what would you call it? Three different sides of the fence or the story. Because, you were losing your sight. I had sight and then, immediately did not. And
Yeah.
Jesse never had it at all. And and the reason I'm pointing this out to the listeners is that I hadn't thought about that until we started recording this. In three people, we already have three different points, for lack of a better term, points of view. And I know I've talked to y'all about it, but this podcast is trying to get awareness out there that you know the only difference between us and them is we can't see. We can still do anything we want to do. Well, except maybe Jesse, because he is a little whiny baby. But other than that, we can still do anything we want to.
Yeah, I'm not sure you'd want us driving you around in a taxi, but well, I'll
Yeah, well, I did apply
fly
to.
that along your eyes.
Speaking of that, a short little funny story. Do you remember like I want to think they were Go Army commercial. They were Army commercials anyway. I can't remember if it was like U.S. Army, Go Army, or
I've seen so many army commercials over like 47 years that they all kind of blend together. But I have been watching old vintage commercials too, and army commercials pop up every now and again.
yeah. I remember calling them because they were offering a free T-shirt. He's like, "Oh, so I can sign you up?" Yes, sir. Uh,
Oh.
do you have any?
I got one phone call from the it was the recruitment office, I guess. For I don't know if it was for a specific branch or if it was just like you know the entire military recruitment office, and he called. Right, I had just turned 18 or something like that.
Yeah, like just out of high school.
Yeah.
Uh huh.
I was like, "Well, I'd love to help y'all out, but, I don't think you'll take me." "Why?"
Sir, we will take anybody.
"Oh, I'm almost blind."
Oh.
"Oh, I'm sorry. Well, we won't call you again."
I mean, it's funny because they're all like gung ho, like, yeah, we got another recruit. I'm blind. Oh, you might want to go apply for the Air Force. It's- but as I remember getting like the free T-shirt that they were offering. I basically called them just to get the free T-shirt, and it got here, and I'm a big boy. It was like a small. I'm like,
Oh,
I
no.
can't even put my arm in this shirt now. Come on, like, this is ridiculous. Um, But you mentioned watching old commercials. I have a fondness for, a lot of the old commercials, and you and I have discussed this, the got milk commercials.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so you still watch TV, you still watch movies, and obviously you still watch commercials. Explain to us like how you do that.
Well, it's easier to watch a movie that you've already, seen
Yeah.
from back in the day, because you can mostly remember what it looked like and
like the
effects.
highlights of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but for new movies, we've got some audio description that helps. But if there's like indie movies or small budget movies that don't have that, then I mean, you got to pay closer attention to what the sounds or what sounds are going on and what people are saying. But usually, I found a lot of times that like you may not understand exactly what happened in the moment, but like movies do a pretty good job of explaining what happened later on.
Yeah. And
I don't think people pay that much attention to it until they have to, but you know,
I think a lot of sighted people are watching the action, maybe not paying attention to the sound effects.
yeah.
And I don't know if you've discovered this, but it seems to happen to me like 8, 9 times out of 10. For instance, I'll be at a movie with Clint and Shannon, and something will happen that, I didn't catch the audio, like the sound effect to, most because I was crunching down on popcorn or listening to kids, do something like screaming. And I was like, what happened? And within 10 seconds of them telling me what happened on the movie, they tell what happened.
Yeah. And that probably annoys the shit out of side people because they're like, "Well, I just saw it. You don't have to explain it to me."
Right. But
Like,
for
that's
us, I mean,
uh,
it's necessary. Um, so when you finally like lost all of your sight, what was one of the hardest things you had to adjust to?
uh,
Yeah, we asked a tough question.
I love playing video games and stuff when I was a kid, and that was kind of hard to like have to leave. Well, not completely leave behind because you can, especially these days when they're making games more accessible.
Yeah,
But a lot of the old games, like I probably won't play again, be able to play again.
like
Um,
for me, missing out on, I used to love Super Mario 1 and 3.
yeah.
I hated 2 with a passion, as did I think a lot of
Well, I
people.
didn't hate two, but it wasn't my favorite. It wasn't even really a Mario game anyways. It was just a Mario game that and they localized.
Yeah. I think I remember like watching a video on YouTube that it was actually created to be something else,
Yeah.
and then they just basically transferred or superimposed Mario in there.
Yeah, pretty much some sort of like, I don't know, Egyptian theme.
Yeah. I mean,
Little Alibaba flying carpet sort of stuff.
it was okay like the first time I played it, and then it's like this is just stupid. I'm going back to Mario 1 and Duck Hunt because it had like both games on that one cartridge. That that you'd have to blow out, tap on the table or whatever to get to work probably 7 out of 10 times. So, like
I got a duck hunt. So I got a quite a few relatives on my dad's side are cops, and my uncle in particular came over one day, and he saw the duck hunt with the guns. And, oh, that's cool. I want to try that. And he he picked up the gun and tried to shoot the ducks and like missed the first couple of times, and the dog jumps out and laughs at him.
yeah, that
And so he just gets this like cop look on his face, like, and just starts, I teach you to laugh at me, shoots the duck, I teach you to laugh at me, shoots the duck, I'll teach you to laugh at me. But,
Oh, man, that makes me think about, my dad and myself. I mean, we didn't have a good relationship, but there's a couple times where, we did stuff together, and I was playing Mario, and, if Mario died or got to the end of the world, it was then Luigi's turn. Well, daddy kept, getting killed by either falling down a pit or one of those vine things. And he got so outrageously mad that he said I was cheating, It's like, you're cheating. You're cheating. I'm dying because you're cheating. And I lost my NES for like a week and a half, 2 weeks, because mama put it up on the refrigerator, away. And I'm like, I didn't do nothing. I'm just playing Mario. And
Can't cheat.
exactly. That's back before we really knew about cheat codes. But speaking of video games, I know you and I have talked about it. That's one reason I really don't care to play many video games is because I know what I'm missing.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's totally how I feel. It's like even if I can, it's like it's hard because it's like, well, I know what's going on. If I were blind from birth, it wouldn't matter. But
Because you don't know what you're missing. And I know there's a lot of blind people out there, and there's some visually impaired that do play games, and good for them. I mean, I encourage them to keep going, and play as much as they want. But for me personally, I know what I'm missing. So therefore, I don't even try.
yeah, it
I
is hard a lot of times.
Cody, who I go cruising with, brought his PS5 over because I wanted to try out the accessibility of whatever the new Madden is called, whatever year it is. And I plugged in my earbuds and I thought, okay. So he started playing and I'm sitting there like I, I wanted to try out the accessibility. And it was reading stuff, but he was moving so fast. It's like beep. I'm like, okay. So I just hand him the earbuds and it's like, yep, that's fairly accessible. You know. Um. So for me, like the hardest part seems to be like knowing what I'm missing and the disappointment not being able to play on. But here recently, one thing that came out in November, you and I can say I got addicted to it. War Shovel.
Yeah, that
I mean, it's a lot of fun, and people who have sight can play it as well. It's a little bit of micromanaging, a little bit of exploring, but I mean, all we're doing is like tapping on buttons. I don't know what it looks like, but
yeah, I don't think it looks like too much. I don't think we're missing a whole lot because it's pretty. It sounds like kind of rudimentary, like art, like sort of
like
old
very
school
basic, bare bones,
Lego
or
people type looks.
ah. See, I wasn't even sure and never did think to ask anybody, but it's really refreshing that there's games out there like that you know sighted people and blind people can play. Because, we've created the guild on there, the War Dwarves, who are the best
Yeah.
guild despite what our ranking is. We're still the best guild.
Despite what our ranking is falling towards.
Yeah. And we have sighted people in there. And I know there's a few guilds out there that are just blind people. But it's really refreshing to know that there's, games that both can play that aren't just basically a dice game or
Yeah,
a card,
a card
simple.
game. Yeah,
Um,
I
so
just can't go one of those card games.
see, there's several of them that I wish I could play, like, the wrestling one. We were talking about it last night, the AEW one.
Yeah,
I wish I could play something like
I
that.
kind of wish I tried to play Magic: The Gathering back in the day, but I just wasn't really all that interested in it.
I had a bunch of Magic cards, but I I just didn't understand it enough to get into it because I never had the rule book.
Yeah, for
But
us, it would have just been too hard because, like, even with my sight that I had, I couldn't really read the cards very easily, and
right.
I'd probably have to commit a lot of it to memory. And
I mean, and I've come across an article. I don't know who the guy is, but he has adapted Magic for him to be able to play. Like, takes like the baseball card holders, and I think he brails out like a label on it and what it does. And but
that's
me, if
cool if you can read.
if you can read braille, I can't. So
I used to be able to, but I mean, I was taught, but you know, that's kind of that's kind of one of those things where I wish I could go back and change because I really rebelled against like wanting to do the blind training when I was a kid because I can see. I don't need to walk with a cane. I can see. I don't need to read braille. Yeah,
yeah,
I really didn't want to be that differentiated from everybody else,
and
and it was hard enough as it was. So I just I kind of I don't know what stonewalled the
oh, I get it.
education.
Because I was kind of the same way. Like whenever I lost my sight, they're like, "You can go to the school for the blind. You can learn how to read braille." Why? Why? I mean, there's so much technology out there that I don't need to learn how to read braille. I
Yeah,
mean,
nowadays that's kind of the big thing is like a lot of people aren't learning braille anymore because you've got computers with screen readers and stuff.
right.
I I I understand the thinking, but like I kind of think that if you are blind, you probably should learn braille, even if it's not something you do use on your daily routine, because it'll come in handy at some points, or like you don't know, what if something happens to the technology that you rely on and you need to fall back on something.
Man, I can see the benefits, of knowing it. Like for me, I love cooking. I could label the different spices and things like that, but I usually don't care and I'll smell it. Oh, that's garlic. I don't need to label it. Oh, that's lemon
Yeah.
pepper. I don't need to label it.
Or that kind of stuff you can just put, even if you had to, you could put just some like shape or some shape sticker or something on it. You don't really have to read the label.
Right. Well, are there any like everyday activities that once you lost your sight completely that are difficult for you?
No, because I didn't really do anything but you.
Jesse.
All
I
I
mean
was
I mean Stephen.
sedentary. Like I just one thing I've noticed as being blind is that like I've gotten a lot more like anti being out in public. Like I don't like being I don't like going to restaurants. I don't like going shopping cuz like it just feels like, even if nobody is, it just feels like you've got eyeballs on you all over the place.
And
And it's like you feel like people are scrutinizing everything you do.
and I was that way in the very beginning because I wouldn't go into restaurants for a few years after I lost my sight because of that, and then all of a sudden it's like, you know what? I don't care. If they're looking at me, I'm gonna eat this food while it's hot instead of, carrying it home to eating it basically being cold.
Yeah.
I mean, I've just gotten to where I just don't care, about stuff like that. Now, I mean, I'll go out, I'll go shopping. I go with Shannon a lot to Hobby Lobby. Uh, it's not my favorite store, but I usually go because we're going somewhere else where I want to go. So I do suffer through hell. I mean, Hobby Lobby, and in order to go somewhere else. That and I mean, I love Shannon, so she asked me to go somewhere, then I'm going to. I'm
Yeah, I'm kinda the same way. If I got a friend that's, like, gonna ask me to do something, I'll 9 times out of 10 do it, and if I don't do it, it's because I got something else to do.
yeah. Well, what's one of the like for you? What's one of the big misconceptions that people think about blind people that's just not true?
Um, y there's probably a lot, but none of 'em go into my head at the moment. Um, I you talk to people all the time who, like, you don't know, and, they'll, talk to you like you're mentally incapable or something, you know?
Yeah, like most of our minds work just as well. It's just the eyes that don't.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and people think like, oh, well, they're blind, they're disabled. No, I just can't see. I'm perfectly able to do anything else. Well, except driving. And I don't think I'd be on the other end of me at a target range either. But I'm there's no difference. And I know I keep repeating that in this episode as well as I did in the one with Jesse because it's one of those one of those points, Stephen, and I'm assuming that you agree that just needs to be beat home until
Yeah.
people understand.
I I hear a lot of people like, well, if you're blind, how are you talking on, the computer or whatever, how are you writing this comment on the YouTube videos or whatever.
Yeah, I mean,
And like I'm the smart ass that will give a shitty answer, so I usually just hold off and let somebody else answer it.
I mean, technology's out there. I mean, we can't see the screen, but that don't mean we can't hear what the screen reader, which converts text to speech for us says.
I've heard some, horror stories of people using their phones out in public and some idiot will like say they're not blind because they're using their phone
And
and
see,
there's a stink about it.
I'll usually put like ear what do you call it, AirPods in,
Yeah,
like
most people do. Yeah, I mean, especially if you're outside, you got to be able to hear it, and like it's hard to hear things when everything else is going on around you.
right. That
So
I
people can't hear the screen reader that you're using.
that and I don't want people knowing whatever it is I'm talking about. Not that it's
Yeah.
anything bad, but that's my personal conversation.
And I'll use my phone just like everybody else. Like it'll, I'll my face is down pointed towards it just because that's the natural way you use a phone,
Yeah.
So it might look like I'm reading it, but I'm not.
And see, I hadn't ever thought about like looking down at my phone, but because it does come natural. I mean, I do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you don't think about it. Yeah, and if I don't have the AirPods in, it's like I have to hold the phone like right up to my ear
Yeah.
because I had the screen reader so low that I don't want other people to hear it. Um, but you and I both love reading, and I know we have a love of the lit RPG genre. That shouldn't be that difficult to say, Stephen, but it kind of got tangled right there at the end of my tongue. We both love the lit RPG genre. Now, when I read some books with like my screen reader, I don't necessarily like it because I mean it's basically a robot voice. I mean voices are they're getting better, but they still don't sound exactly like a human.
Yeah.
Um, which way do you prefer reading?
I think it's easier, like, if it's easier to follow, like, a fiction book, especially if you've got somebody doing differentiating their voice for the characters and stuff, where, the the robot voices aren't gonna do. Um,
I think you lose a lot when you read it with the screen reader.
yeah, I think so. Yeah, I'll read nonfiction books that way because it doesn't matter.
Yeah, they're dry anyway.
Yeah, but, yeah, I prefer audiobooks for my, uh for my fictional books with, characters and stuff, especially when you got fantastic narrators like, some of the ones we like, I can't
Jeff
remember.
Hayes.
Jeff Hayes, oh, what's that one guy that does a lot of the,
There's Luke
Travis
Daniels.
Baldry.
Oh yeah. I mean, they're so good at it.
Yeah, there's a handful of them that, like, I'll even if it's a book that I normally probably wouldn't buy, I'll buy it if I see one of those narrators.
I can't think of the guy's name that reads the Caverns and Creatures books,
Yeah,
but
I can't either. I haven't seen him on other books very much, but he is a really good narrator.
I mean, I enjoy, and when it comes to like the audio experience with narrators, because both of us agree, like if it's like a novel, a fiction novel, I want somebody reading it to me. Could you imagine? Because we both love Dungeon Crawler Carl, and the new one has come out. I just haven't read it yet because I'm
Yeah, I haven't
rereading
read
the
it yet
other one.
either. I'll be honest. I know it's going to be a depressing book,
Yeah,
and that's kind of why I haven't read it yet.
it is. I'm just trying to read the other ones to like basically refresh my memory. That and I mean, I just love the series. But could you imagine?
That is one of my favorite series so far. I mean, that's just it's just it's so it's such an emotional roller coaster. Like
And it's
it's
so
funny,
immersive,
it's well written,
well
it
read.
has a you know a real dramatic bent towards it. I just love that. I just love that series.
But could you imagine like reading that with our screen reader? You would miss Princess Donut.
Yeah, you'd miss a lot.
I mean, you would miss a ton. And so, I mean, you and I both like prefer the audio books, but us talking about the lit RPG books, this is this is a bit of a different question. More not personal, but like more imaginative, I guess. If you could live in a lit RPG world, what would it be like?
Yeah, they're also hellish. It'd
It
probably be one of the comfort ones, like the
heretical fishing?
exactly. Yeah, I just I daydream about like being in that book and just kind of like meeting that guy Fisher,
Yes, and
like
Sergeant
just
Snips. And
getting all like excited over being meeting another Earth person.
now, uh, for me, I bounce like whenever I'm reading, say, Dungeon Crawler Carl, I try to put myself in his headspace. To like, yeah, that makes sense. Or I think I would have done this if I was in there. But the other series that you and I both love, the Noobtown series, I could see myself living in that world.
Yeah, that'd be a decent one to live in, I think.
I mean, it's not all happy-go-lucky, but I mean, there's a lot of
It's also not like apocalypse either. So
right. And while I love reading apocalyptic books, I don't know that I necessarily want to live in that kind of world.
it would be pretty difficult. Like I'm not sure. I don't think I'd want to have to live in the dungeon crawler Carl universe. That would probably be a nightmare.
Oh, it would be. And I think that's why I enjoy reading those because I don't have to live in them. Um, but here's a good question, for us both. Do you think, like, if you could, in the world that we're in now, do you think, like menu screens and stuff like that, if we could see those in our head, do you think they'd be really helpful to us? Or do you think they'd be like a hindrance? Because, sometimes in those books, the notifications do get in the way
Yeah.
of, like their vision and stuff. What do you think?
Oh, I mean, I think at the end of the day, it'd be pretty helpful because like you could select the aspects of yourself you want to fix.
Yeah. And you could be able to tell like what's going on and like if you stub your toe, like notification, you have stubbed your toe on a
Yeah.
couch.
And you
Oh
know it's gonna go you know it's gonna go away in like whatever minute or whatever it says. You're like toe damage for 5 seconds or whatever.
yeah, you have been stunned for 3.5 seconds.
I could also see it be pretty annoying. Like you'd have to probably tone it down a little bit so it doesn't tell you everything everywhere.
I mean, I think it would be kind of cool though, but that's also us looking at it now like we don't have it. I'm sure it would get highly annoying if we had it and, if you couldn't adjust certain aspects of it.
It'd be really cool to see people's like names so you don't have to like have awkward introductions and stuff.
This is true, and that brings up something. I know you said you don't like to go out a whole lot, but when you do, and somebody comes up to you like, "Hey, do you know who I am?" How do you react to that?
I usually with no, because even when I could see like people would do that, and I was like, I'm sorry, I don't remember you.
I mean, I've had that happen to me twice in the past week. Now, I went months without somebody doing it and had it twice in a week. This one guy came up to me and somebody else was there and he said, "Bubba, this guy says he knows you." "Oh, okay." And the guy started talking like, "Yeah, you remember me?" "No, I don't." "Well, can't you see me?" "No, I can't." "How do you know me?" "'Cause of the game. Can't you see me?" "No, I'm blind." So it's like I immediately knew that he didn't know me. I mean, because I do forget voices. And in my head, I'm thinking, no, I don't know you. Leave me alone, weirdo guy. And it's like, um, and he just kept on like I knew him. And dude, I have no idea who you are. It's like, and Shannon was right there because we were, doing some stuff. And, like behind the scenes, we were helping, like a catering business. And, I knew she knew I was fixing to go off on him because I mean that's just my personality. Like, just leave me alone. But I was really good and stayed composed, and I was like, well, the older I get, the less I remember. Yeah, yeah, I know what you mean. All right, I'll talk to you later. Oh, bye. And um,
Well, I hadn't had that happen recently. I'm sure that's happened at some point in my life where it's like, you sure you don't remember me? I'm like, nah,
um,
dude, you ain't the center of the universe.
well, it happened again yesterday. Shannon and she carried me to do some, like some grocery shopping. And so, I carried her out to eat because, she come to get me and carried me. So we're sitting there eating. We get through eating and go up there to pay the bill. And this cashier lady just, starts talking like, "Hey Greg, how you doing?" I didn't answer. My name ain't Greg. And she's like, "Hey Greg." And Shannon turns to me. "She's talking to you." I said, "Oh, me? Yeah, Greg." I said, I'm good. How about you?" She's like, and she kept going on like, It's just another day. I think I drank too much last night. I think I'm thinking in my head, I think you're still drunk. But I say, yeah, I've been there. And I swear I'd never do it morning after. I was like, I'm never doing that again. And she's like, yeah, I know what you mean. And then doing it again that night. Yeah, yeah. I mean, totally well, I mean, not that that story was fabricated because that's how it used to be. But it's like, you just roll with it because it's not worth the effort of trying to explain to them that they're wrong.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I'll be honest, I am kind of an asshole. When uh people like when I hear somebody say, "Hey," and I know they're talking to me, but I don't really want to talk to them, so I'll pretend like I don't hear them. "Hey, doo-doo-doo, doo-ba-doo. Just can't hear. I'm an old man."
Just, yeah. And I'll do that sometimes, but what I really can't stand is like I'm standing there talking to somebody and they'll be like, "Hey, hey," And I have no idea they're haying at me. There's 10 other people out there. They could be haying to any one of them. And then they'll come up, are you ignoring me? And I still don't know that they're talking to me. And like, finally they'll say like Richard or Bubba. I'm like, oh, yeah, you're talking to me? Yeah, I've been talking to you for like 5 minutes. Well, say, hey, Richard, or hey, Bubba.
Yeah,
That way I know that you're talking to me. And
I get I'll get confused. Neighbors will confuse me with my dad. Oh,
really?
yeah. Hey, Jimmy. And I just kind of pretend like I can't hear.
Oh, your daddy is Jimmy Wang Yang? That is awesome. I know you remember Jimmy Wang Yang.
Yeah, I just
Yeah.
I didn't expect that, Nate.
And the other thing, and I'm sure you've come across it too, like you're talking to somebody and then they answer you and you're going to ask them something else, but they've just walked off. So you stand there talking, you to
Oh,
getting over.
yeah, yeah, it's happened to me. Oh, so many times.
I can't stand that, and like if I want to talk to somebody, then there's a group of us, I'll say like, hey Corey. And you know, Corey will walk over there and he doesn't let me know that he's hurting. So he's standing there waiting on me to say something. But yet I don't know he's standing there waiting on me to say
So yeah, I was gonna say sometimes it's the opposite where it's like you'll be talking to somebody and you think the conversation's ended, but they'll just be standing there looking at you
yes.
and you don't even know they're there.
I mean, it's crazy, and that's stuff that, sighted people don't really think about. You know,
One thing I had that like I've happens a lot is like concerts and stuff. Um I won't even realize I've been moving, like walking in different directions and like I'll end up in completely different spots because I didn't even
oh,
realize I was walking.
I
And
hadn't even thought about that aspect because I usually like just sit in my chair, even when the band people say, stand up and shout. No, I'm going to sit here.
oh man, if there's a chair, I definitely want the chair. Or if there's like a banister that I can hold on to. Cause like that, I mean,
It grounds you.
yeah.
And, because we go to a lot of concerts at the theme park here, Wild Adventures, and we'll go to like the water park and get in. It's called something different, but it's a lazy river. And I'll just be floating around, Cody
Oh
will
God, yeah,
float
I know
on
what you're
me.
going with.
Yeah.
What's because it's happened to me.
And, I mean, I'm not getting out of the river. Cody knows that. And I'll bump into somebody. Hey, watch where you're going. I can't. You know, and I'm like, I'm blind. Oh, I'm sorry. Why are you sorry? Are you sorry that I'm blind or sorry that you were a jerk telling me to watch where I'm going? I want to know the distinguish, you know, before I float on by. Yeah. And a lot of times, people are good about it, like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize. Well, that's cool, because I don't act like a typical blind person. But it's
Yeah.
like, and the kids, I mean, they'll just like run by, kick you, splash you. Like, I know this is a water park, but you don't have to splash like every 5 seconds, you little jerk.
I was in one of those it lazy pools. It went like the outer edge was the it was kind of like it had a lazy river thing around the perimeter of it, and then the center was like just regular pool. And I remember like being in this like thing and ended up because the person I was with got out to answer her phone or whatever.
Yeah.
So I was in there alone, just kind of like letting the thing float around the what I thought was the perimeter, and I ended up in like the little kids part.
What's that
And
old guy doing in here?
this lady's like, did you know you're like, did you know you were in? I'm like, no, you want me to get you out? I'm like, yes, please.
That'd be nice. Oh man, and we could probably go on and on with stories.
Like such a creep though. It's like whole adult, half naked, dude in the kids plush. Like, ugh, damn it.
You're a kid at heart. You got that what is that disorder that Robin Williams had in,
Oh,
was it Jack? Was that the movie?
can't remember now.
You know,
What movie you're talking about, but I
he was
can't.
like 5 years old, but he was like full size adult.
Yeah,
Ah, you know, like, yeah, I'm a kid. Yeah, but I mean, typically, yeah, I mean, you'll come across people who are jerks and just don't care and stay jerks, but a lot of times, people are like really understanding and considerate, and will help you out. Yeah, I don't know how it would be like in somewhere like New York or California, but typically in the South, we have some Southern hospitality and people that are observant. It's those that are unobservant that are usually the jerks with everything.
yeah.
Um, I do have one last question for you here, and this one may take a little bit. If you could tell your younger self one thing, and you can, decide which age you would tell this part your younger self. If you could tell them one thing, what life would be like now, what would you tell them?
Oh man, like a younger me,
Yes.
like if I could go back in time and talk to myself.
Yeah, any age, one to whatever.
Well, shit, I'd probably say go to your eye doctor more often, dummy. I'd have squeezed out a couple more years.
Oh, I go to the eye doctor, dummy. Well, you could have done that if you hadn't been in the kiddie pool, you know. Um, but and that's one of the smart things, that we could, all tell our younger self, because eyesight. If you lose it, it's not the end of the world. But if you can keep it, do everything that you can
Yeah,
to keep it,
definitely.
because while we navigate and make do, if you haven't, you're more likely to get hired. You're more likely, not to be, not that we're shunned, but I think we're very, very misunderstood.
Yeah, it is definitely a lot harder to convince somebody of your qualifications when they see you kind of struggling to even get in the interview office.
Yes, or struggling to get out of the kiddie pool.
Yeah, and it, I if you're born blind, it's obviously going to be way easier for you because you spend your life adapting to it. But if you lose your sight as an adult, it's so much harder because now you've got to learn a whole new set of skills, and you're past the age where learning things is easy.
Tell me about it, brother. Preach, preach.
But
Oh,
I tell you one thing, I the the most annoying question I have gotten from um like prospective employers during an interview is, well, if we hire you, how do you think you can adapt to our office uh environment? That's not a question you should ask a blind person. There are resources, there are state resources, private resources that you can call, and they can walk through your office and make any necessary changes. But that's not a question you should ask a person who probably, even though they spend, their a lot of their day blind,
right.
they may not know. We don't know what your office will need because we're not in your office yet.
Right, and it's not necessarily, and I fully agree with you. It's not necessarily our job.
Exactly.
There's people that get paid to do that.
Exactly. Yes.
You know, um, And that's something that the HR people or human resources, which is a hilariously good show on Netflix. I mean, but anyway, that's
I
what
mean,
human
I can
resources are for.
my answer to that is usually, well, I can give you a general idea of how we adapt technology to work for us, but that's gonna have to be something that we learn along the way, and that's usually probably not a satisfactory answer to them because that tells them it's gonna be a chore on them.
And there goes a prospective
Exactly, yeah.
employer. I mean, we're not gonna adapt immediately.
Nope.
It takes us a little bit of time to learn, new environments or new ways to do things. But if you give us some time, I'm not saying a lot of time, but if you give us some time, we'll figure it out.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I mean, and granted, you're going to get some blind people that I've seen posts from on Facebook and heard about that say that everybody should do everything for them, like wash their clothes or cook their food. No, you're perfectly capable. You just have, LAS, which
Yeah.
is, lazy ass syndrome.
There's another thing that really irritates me is, the, the appliances, the modern appliances all going towards, like, those flat.
The LED type screens.
Yeah, where you can't
Uh,
the buttons aren't raised at all. It's like a touch screen or something.
yes.
It used to just be microwaves, and now it's like everything.
Yes, my air fryer
Ovens,
is that way.
dryers, washers. It irritates the crap out of me.
Yeah, it does me too. And I mean, anytime I have to get a new piece of equipment, I have to get somebody with sight to help me modify it. Now,
Exactly.
I'm trying to think what that website is, Blind Mice.
Oh, yeah. They
You
got a
know,
ton of cool like, I saw, I got an email the other day, they were talking, about their deals and stuff, and, like, there was they had a modified Black& and Decker talking
the
toaster.
toaster oven.
Yeah, and I was like, "Oh, damn, I really." It's kind of expensive, but that might be a good thing to get, for,
For
for me.
cooking. I mean, thankfully, I have a very basic toaster oven that
Yeah.
I can. It has like the knobs on
The
it, so I
knowledge,
can.
I think that's one of those things that it's gonna hopefully remain
I hope
like
so.
that for a long time, like.
I hope so. Now, like my air fryer, I can connect to Wi-Fi. The only problem is I can't do it. Somebody who has sight has to do it. And I mean, the situation with storms down here. If electricity goes off, it's liable to knock the Wi-Fi out
Yeah,
or off of the air fryer. I mean, electricity's going out, so you don't have internet. But the fact is, it basically resets the Wi-Fi.
yeah.
So it's like that's just annoying. But I
Oh,
mean,
and my parents have a security system that's pretty much useless for me.
I remember,
I couldn't even type in the code because it's all done on screen, on some screen that's not accessible. Like,
and
I guess blind people don't need security systems.
well, my thing is with all the technology out there, Stephen, how or why is there technology that's not accessible? I mean, our
I
phones are
Good question.
accessible.
I wish I had, as cheap as it is to just slap it doesn't even have to be a good high quality voice chip in something, just, something that can read out numbers and basic words and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that's cheap. It,
Exactly. It's like few cents cheap, It's like something you have
there's
to.
no reason that it shouldn't be included.
I agree.
But I mean, that
People are able to do it on, on like on the Blind Mice store. If people are able to do that, as a project, as just, they aren't even professional, or well, maybe they are professionals, but quote unquote amateur uh tinkerers, can fix this stuff up for us.
right.
Then surely the major manufacturers can be able to put something together.
You would think so. And and I know you've come across this too, like the stuff that is accessible, like quote unquote straight out of the box or that has been modified like on Blind Mice is so expensive.
Oh god, yeah, that thing we were talking about, that the toaster oven, or yeah, toaster oven, I think it's like $400.
Yeah, and you know what I can do with $400?
Pay rent, pay
Yeah.
taxes, you
I mean,
pay taxes.
yeah, I mean, come on, you mean you took a let's see, Black& and Decker, that may be about $50. Your equipment to modify it costs $350? Really?
I don't know, man. It's
I mean,
you know.
no. I'll take my little $20 toaster oven and a knife, and I'll mark up anything that I need to mark up on it so that I know.
I went on a berserk hunt for a battery tester that I could use that, wasn't check the lights,
Yeah.
that had an audio tone. And thankfully, I found one, and it was thankfully on Blind Mice. So I got that, and I'm making sure that thing stays around for
Yeah,
forever, because like
yeah.
it was almost impossible to find just a battery tester, a simple battery tester like that anybody could make, maybe put a switch on if people don't like the tones.
I mean, at most 10 cents.
Yeah.
But and that's the stuff that we deal with, folks.
Yeah.
I mean, eh, I hate to
God
say
forbid
it.
if you want anything more complicated, like one of those multimeter things that you can test various wires on. They used to make one that was accessible, and it's no longer available.
When things work, they improve it to where it doesn't work for us.
Yeah.
But Stephen, I want to thank you for joining us. We'll definitely have you back and we'll talk some more stuff about technology and books and make fun of Jesse.
Yep.
You know, do all
Let
that
enough
stuff.
this
Yeah,
I got one in. Well,
it
it's
makes me
gotten
feel
one in.
special. But thank you for joining me. I want to remind everybody to like, share, subscribe, rate, review, all the typical stuff to do. And I want to thank, Stuffy Security Agency for the green screens. Unfortunately, you're not seeing them in this because it's just the audio. Because once again, I could figure out a way to do it with like headphones and stuff, but it's a chore to set up. Um, but again, thank you for listening. Thank you, Stephen, for joining me, and we'll hear you later.